Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young and there are a ton of things for me to cover this week, so I'll get right to it. After week 5, there are still 2 remaining undefeated teams left in the NFL, with the Chiefs taking down the Saints on Monday night to move to 5-0, and the Minnesota Vikings earning a win early Sunday morning in London over the Jets. Not only did the Vikings continue their perfect season with this win over the Jets, but this loss was enough for the New York Jets to fire head coach Robert Saleh. Saleh, who was hired by the Jets in 2021, had a 20-36 record as the team's head coach, including a lackluster 2-3 start to this season. Defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich will become the team's interim head coach for the remainder of this season. Outside of the firing and the 2 undefeated teams, we had some pretty incredible games this weekend. Starting on Thursday night, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Atlanta Falcons squared off for another division rivalry matchup, and this game did not disappoint. Both teams swapped leads, scoring back and forth all game, and eventually forced the game to go into overtime. But just 1 minute and 15 seconds into overtime, Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins threw his 4th touchdown of the game to seal the win for Atlanta. Cousins finished his day going 42 for 58 with 509 yards and 4 touchdowns. Receiver Drake London led the way for the Falcons, finishing his day with 12 catches for 154 yards and a touchdown. Speaking of division rivalry games, coincidentally, there was another one this week that also went into overtime. The Cincinnati Bengals and Baltimore Ravens met up for another heated rivalry game, and the Bengals were holding on to a 10-point lead in the final quarter. The play of the game came when the Ravens had the ball in the red zone, down 10 with a little over 5 minutes left in the game. Quarterback Lamar Jackson took the shotgun snap, fumbled it, dribbled it off the ground, picked it back up, stiff-armed a Bengals edge rusher, and threw an unbelievable crossbody touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely. A Justin Tucker field goal on the following drive would send the game into overtime, and that's where things got just flat-out wacky. Lamar Jackson fumbled again on the Ravens' opening drive in overtime, and the Bengals recovered in prime field position. After a few short run plays, kicker Evan McPherson trotted onto the field to kick the game winner. However, holder Ryan Recco fumbled the snap, and McPherson pulled his kick wide left. In the Ravens' ensuing drive, another prime Derrick Henry 50-yard rush set up the field goal for Justin Tucker, and a quick chip shot secured the victory for the Ravens. It was another great week across the NFL with some high-scoring games, overtime wins, upsets, and more. With that said, I'm right back to my old ways with my picks. The Seahawks were upset by the Giants, and the Cardinals pulled off the comeback against the 49ers. Luckily, the Vikings remained undefeated, and the Commanders continued to be the most electric team in the NFL. So, I went 2-2 again, bringing me to 10-6 on the season. So, I'll be going with the Bears over the Jaguars in London, Houston to beat the Patriots, the Eagles to pick up a win against the Browns, and the Detroit Lions to take down the Cowboys. Last week, I mentioned there were not that many great matchups in college football. On paper, there wasn't, but I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. The most chaotic week in college football saw Minnesota upset number 11 USC, Washington take down number 10 Michigan, number 25 Texas A&M blow out number 9 Missouri by 31 points, Arkansas defeat number 4 Tennessee by a narrow margin, and possibly the most shocking upset in recent history, Vanderbilt, yes, that Vanderbilt, upsetting the number 1 team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Vanderbilt has lost all 60 games they have ever played against top 5 teams and haven't beaten Alabama in 40 years. But magic was in the air that day as the Commodores pulled off the 40-35 win. Following the historic win, Vanderbilt fans and students stormed the field, took down the goalpost, marched it through downtown Nashville, and tossed it into the Cumberland River. Exactly why it's impossible to not love college sports. That was an incredible week in college football, even though I said it wouldn't be. So, when I say that this upcoming week is slated to be one of the best, there's a chance I could jinx it and it will be boring. But that seems unlikely because there are some exciting matchups on the horizon. Starting out the mayhem will be one of the best rivalries in all of college sports, the Red River rivalry. The number 1 Texas Longhorns and number 18 Oklahoma Sooners will face off yet again in a heated matchup at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas. Texas leads the overall series 63-51-5, but with nearly half of those wins coming before World War II. Since 2000, Oklahoma has dominated the series, winning 17 games to Texas 8, including the last 3 matchups. Texas will look to continue their undefeated season and beat Oklahoma for the first time since 2018. That game kicks off at 12:30 on ABC. Although USC is unranked now following their loss last week, their rivalry matchup with number 4 Penn State this weekend will still be a game to watch. That game also kicks off at 12:30 on CBS. Number 9 Ole Miss and number 13 LSU will play in another great game starting at 4:30 p.m. on ABC, and in my opinion, the best game of the week will be at 4:30 p.m. on NBC, where we have a showdown of 2 top 5 ranked teams. Number 2 Ohio State will travel to Eugene, Oregon to take on the number 3 ranked Oregon Ducks. Autzen Stadium is one of the loudest stadiums in all of sports, so Oregon will look to use the home field advantage in this heavy-hitting rematch of the 2014 National Championship game. The MLB playoff bracket is still raging on, and after the first 2 games, all of the 4 divisional series were tied at 1-1. On Tuesday in the National League, the Phillies traveled to New York to take on the Mets, and the Dodgers took the short trip down the 5 freeway to San Diego, both for Game 3. The Mets handled the Phillies 7-2 on Tuesday behind a dominant pitching outing from Sean Manaea, who pitched into the 8th inning and only gave up 3 hits. Game 4 was on Wednesday afternoon, and Francisco Lindor hit a grand slam in the 6th inning, and the New York Mets reached the National League Championship Series with a 4-1 victory over the Phillies to square off with either the Padres or the Dodgers in the next round. For that series, Fernando Tatis Jr.'s 2-run home run capped off a 6-run second inning, and the San Diego Padres held on to beat Shohei Ohtani and the rival Dodgers 6-5 on Tuesday night to take a 2-1 lead in a tense NL Division Series. Game 4 of that series was also Wednesday night, and Mookie Betts homered for the second straight night, Shohei Ohtani hit an RBI single, and the Dodgers beat the Padres 8-0 to force a series-deciding Game 5. That game will be tonight at 5 p.m. The ALDS games continued with Game 3 on Wednesday, when the Guardians traveled to Detroit and the Yankees went on the road to Kansas City. Giancarlo Stanton hit a go-ahead home run in the 8th inning, helping the Yankees beat the Kansas City Royals 3-2 on Wednesday in Game 3 to take a 2-1 lead in that series. Earlier in the day, the Detroit Tigers had 6 different pitchers hit the mound during their game, leading them to a 3-0 victory over the Cleveland Guardians, as Detroit took a 2-1 lead in that series. Game 4 for both of these AL series were last night. The Yankees have won their second straight, earning their spot in the ALCS after defeating the Royals 3-2. The Cleveland Guardians were able to bounce back with a win, evening the series and forcing a Game 5, which will be tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Another playoff bracket is coming to a conclusion. Heading into Tuesday night, only 3 teams remained in the WNBA playoffs, as the New York Liberty have already earned their spot in the WNBA Finals after their series wins over Atlanta and Las Vegas, only losing 1 of their 6 games. On the other side of the bracket, the 3rd-seeded Connecticut Sun were looking to win their first WNBA title, and the number 2 seed Minnesota Lynx were seeking to become the first franchise in the league to win 5 titles. While the top-seeded New York Liberty beat the 2-time defending champion Las Vegas Aces last Sunday to advance to the finals, Connecticut beat Minnesota that night to force their series to go the distance and return to the Target Center in Minneapolis for Game 5 on Tuesday. Nafisa Collier had 27 points and 11 rebounds, and Courtney Williams contributed 24 points to lead the Minnesota Lynx past the Connecticut Sun 88-77 and into the WNBA Finals for the first time in 7 years. Game 1 of the WNBA Finals between the Lynx and the New York Liberty tipped off last night, and Game 2 will be Sunday at noon. Don't miss out on any of the finals action and see which team will be crowned champions. Speaking of champions, a number of Laguna Woods Village residents will be crowned champions in just a few short weeks. The Village Games are underway, and there are loads of events going on this weekend, including billiards, volleyball, table tennis, and so much more. Make sure to come out and support your friends and neighbors as they compete in the Village Games. As always, thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Sports Corner. Enjoy your weekend full of football, baseball, basketball, hockey, and more. Plus, good luck to all those competing in the Village Games this month. Come right back next weekend for more news, updates, and highlights. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.